everyone, welcome to Chantal Ceramic. Thank you so much for watching. So this video I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful heavy planter. So this one it took me almost 3 weeks to make, so it's not easy, but lots of people when they come to my home studio they do admire it. So I'm going to show you how it's done. So basically this is done by doing the pinch pot technique, but because this is a very large vase, I won't be able to make it in like 2 hours or even like I'm sure the video is going to be less than 2 hours. So it takes 3 weeks to make. So I'm going to make a smaller piece that would look similar to that, and I will show you how it looks like and what's the process and all of this. So this is like also maybe a good way of learning pinch pot in general, but I will show you how to add that texture on here. Here we go. So I will show you how to make this beautiful texture, but first we'll start with the pinch pot and the technique that we want to do. Okay, so I'll put this aside. So we want to start with a pinch pot. So I've got some clay here. So for those who don't know, so when we get the clay out of the bag, we need to do something to what we call it wedging. And that's just like kneading your dough. So this is how it's done. We call it the ram head wedging. As you can see, it's got eyes and horns. So if it's fresh clay out of the bag, we need to do this like 20 times. If it's a recycled clay, we might need to do it 70 times, okay? So now that's done. So now we're going to make this look nice and round like an orange fruit. So all what you do, you're just gonna tap, make it nice and round. Some students get carried away when they do this and they keep doing it for a very long time. No need to, okay? All right, so now what we're gonna do, we're gonna use our thumb to drill a hole down, but you have to be careful not to go all the way down. You need to stop at a certain point so you can leave some thickness down here. If you go all the way down, you're gonna have a hole from the other side. Of course, if you want it to be a planter, you do want a hole in here, but let's just do the hole later so it looks like we actually made it on purpose and it's not a mistake, it's not a fault. So I will show you, I use this method to explain to people what I mean, and I will be 1 second. So this is a broken mug, which is good. I usually always use it for explaining things to students. So forget about the handle. We're not doing a handle today, but imagine this is your piece. So we call these the walls of your piece, and we call this the bottom or the floor. So now we need the bottom to be a thickness of almost 1 centimeter or 1/2 centimeter, okay? So how you check that thickness? You check it against your pointy finger. From here across, we have 1 centimeter, okay? So how are we gonna do that? You're gonna put your thumb in there. For me, because I've done this many times, I know exactly how to do it. So at the moment, I'm just digging in, drilling the hole, and making sure I've reached the thickness that I want, okay? So I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but that's basically what we've got. So now we're gonna come in with the needle tool and we're gonna do the test. So you're gonna try to find the center and you're gonna push that needle tool all the way down. So it's actually gonna hit the table, which is fine because that's gonna be a very small, narrow hole. It will seal by itself. So here we go. The second step, you're gonna grab your pointy finger, not your thumb, and go all the way down. I usually say doing a little bit of pole dancing. So you go all the way down where the needle tool meets the clay, all the way down, lock everything in, don't allow anything to move. Now, especially this one, it stays the way where it is, don't allow it to go up and down, you just lift your hands up. So as you can see, this is the thickness of my bottom, which is good. We would like it to be 1 centimeter, so let's test it against my pointy finger. It's a little bit more than 1 centimeter, but that's fine because as you work on your piece, it will start to get the floor will start to get thinner and thinner. Okay, so now the second step is very important. If you are left-handed, then so if you just make the switch. I am right-handed, so what I'm going to do with my left hand, which is the less dominant, the responsibility or the job of the left hand to always squeeze all the time. And the mistake that students do, they squeeze from the bottom. So basically, you're not squeezing from the bottom, you're squeezing from the side, as you can see. So the reason why you're squeezing from the side is because you want to control your pinch pot. Pinch pot usually wants to flare out and wants to create like a fruit ball. By squeezing all the time from the side, you preventing that from happening. So you have to always keep doing this, while your other hand, which is your right hand, you're going to have your thumb inside and you're going to pinch around and up, around and up, around and up, while simultaneously the left hand is squeezing non-stop. So we aiming for a nice cylinder, a very tight cylindrical shape. Yes, you might say, okay, but I don't want it to be that tight. We can flare it out later. Now, what we need to do, we need to make it as tight as possible and reach the certain height that we like, and then we start flaring it out. Because if you do flare it out from the beginning, it's gonna end up too wide. You're not gonna like it, trust me, and you're gonna ask me to come and help you to make it, to shrink it a little bit more. Now, the other mistake that students do while they pinching, they focus on this top area, that centimeter around here. I would like you to ignore this section, because what you intend to do, you start pinching too much and that gets a little bit too thin and too weak. So ignore that top centimeter, just work on everywhere else except that top centimeter. And now I don't know if you can see these little cracks. I call them creepy cracks. So they look like a skin, orange skin. These ones, you need to address them immediately. And what I mean by immediately, you just use your finger. The oil that comes from your skin will actually help you to smooth them out. So that must be important. If you neglect them, they're going to get worse and worse. If you find that your fingers are not working, you're welcome to use a wet sponge, but just don't add too much water, because your piece will start dissolving. So that's it. Now I've got the height that I like. Now I will show you how to start flaring it out. So the other thing you would like you to do, tap, tap, tap to create a nice surface down here. If you keep this pointy like this, when you put it on the kiln shelf, it might drop, and then if it's got glaze on it, of course, it's going to get stuck on the kiln shelf. You will lose it and you will have to pay for the kiln shelf. So make this surface as wide as possible by tapping, tapping, tapping down, okay? I will just try to reach a little bit more height, because I am just playing with my piece so I can do a little bit of a demo. All right, so now I'm happy with this. I'm going to show you how to flare it out. I will use a clear glass to show you what I'm actually doing from inside, and I will also be using my fingers, but I will also alternate between my fingers and some tools, and I will show you in a second. Back again. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing from inside your pot. This is a clear glass, so it will show you exactly what's happening. So first, I'm going to start with 2 fingers. So what I'm actually doing, I'm pushing these fingers against the wall, as you can see, but you must use your left hand to control it from outside. If you're only doing this with your right hand and don't have any control from the outside, what's going to happen? You're going to overdo it and you're going to flare it out too much. So it's important to use your left hand to control what you're doing. So basically the left hand working against the right hand, because it's a gradual process. You don't want to do this too fast. Now you can also use tools, these called rib, and they are really good for this purpose. There's different colors, and then what you're doing with the rib, you're pushing the clay out, you're flaring it out like this. Again, your left hand must be from sitting on the outside and controlling how much you do it. I alternate between this one. I actually have the best one, which I really like. It's the air freshener, the jelly belly, the air freshener for your car. When it run out of the smell, I keep them, I don't throw them out. And then I use this down here and I push the clay as well. So let's start with my fingers. So this is your pinch pot. So I'm gonna start flurrying a little bit with my fingers. And now maybe I can do 3 fingers. Okay, so while your piece is still thick, it's got thick walls, you're welcome to hold it like this. When your piece gets thin, it's very important to keep it on the table. Don't try to hold it like this because it will get distorted. At the moment, it can keep its shape because it's thick and strong. So let's start with this tool. So I'm gonna keep it on the table here. And I'm just gonna move it around like this. And that's gonna start flaring it out. Let's also use this one. Sometimes it's good to use a banding wheel for this, but for those who don't have one, it can still be done this way. All right, so let's maybe grab something so I can show you how it. You can buy those from Amazon or from Pottery Supply at Milton as well. They have really good ones. So now your wheel's turning. The reason I'm using this foam is so the clay will stick on this metal. So it's better to use these foams. These foams, you can buy them like a big roll from Spotlight, and then you can cut them to that shape that you like. If you're interested to buy them, let me know and I will actually I'll tell you what they actually called. So here we go. So now with the banding wheel, you will be able to push harder. I am using 400 grams of clay. Again, as you get more experience on doing this, you will be able to make bigger pieces. So see how it started to flare out. And now let's alternate between the rib and my hand. The good thing about using your fingers, you are a little bit more in control because you feel what's going on. You feel the clay. And the rib is good, but it creates a barrier between you and the clay, so you don't actually feel what you are doing. And now here we go. I'm using just my thumb to smooth things around. And you can also do this motion and smooth it around. So now your walls are a little bit thinner because we stretched it out. So I would not recommend holding your piece like this. See how it started to tear gradually? And this is important for the ones who's doing the booby mug. They're working on their booby mug and they're holding their piece like this and it starts to tear. Usually what I do for my student at this point, I like to cut my piece in half and show them how it looks like from inside and what we are aiming for. Of course, if you cut your piece in half, maybe I wouldn't recommend getting it fired. It might survive the kiln, it might not survive the kiln. It's okay to cut things around here, but usually the floor, if you cut the floor in half and join it back together, there is a risk that you might get cracks. So, but this is a demo piece, so that's fine. So I'm gonna grab the wire and cut it in half and show you how it looks. Right. So at this stage, I'm gonna cut this in half and show you what we are aiming for. Okay, so if you have a look from inside, usually clay accumulates in these corners. So see how it's actually thin here, it's thick here, and that's what we're gonna work on. Let's look at the other piece, the same thing. It's a little bit thicker on this side than this side, but that's what we're gonna try to do. Of course, you're not gonna cut your piece in half and your piece is not see-through, but this is just to show you what we are aiming for, and it all comes from practice. So once you make your second piece and then your third piece and then your fourth piece, you will be able to become like an MRI scan with your fingers and you feel where it's actually thick, where it's actually thin. So you don't actually have to cut it in half. But I'm cutting it in half only to show you where we need to work on and what we need. I would like, oh, sorry, my hair got stuck in the plant. I would like to show you this tool here, which is the cheapest tool ever. You've just wooden fork. So I'm going to address this area because it's very thick, as you can see. So I'm just gonna basically scoop the clay up towards the wall so I can have even thickness, and just do the same here. So the floor is actually not too bad. Remember how we left a little bit extra, but now if you check the thickness, it will definitely be even half a centimeter, as you can see. So if you test that against your fingers, it's perfect. Okay, cool. So that's basically what you're gonna work on. So I'll just try to keep that in the shot and smooth everything out. And then for this one as well, you're gonna be working on this side. Now, as I said, you should not be cutting your piece in half, but that's just to show you what you are meant to do. And that actually gives me the opportunity to explain to you what you should do now to join them together. So when we join a piece of clay to another piece of clay, we don't just join them like this. There are rules that we have to follow. So the rules are you have to do the slip and score. If you don't do the slip and score, they might detach in the kiln. So how are you gonna do the slip and score? And of course, I am out of the tool. So you can just do it with this needle tool. You're just scoring in here. I usually do have a nice scoring tool, but at the moment it must be away and I don't wanna keep walking away from the camera. So this is the scoring and that must be done all around your piece. I'm just doing it quickly just for demo purposes. And you might think, oh, that's done. No, 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 no. Your other piece as well needs to be scored. This is very important in the pottery world. If you ignore this step, your piece will not attach properly. So this works the same way if you're adding a handle, if you're adding boobies, if you're adding foot ring, like, you know, when you have like a foot ring for your mugs down at the bottom. All right, so here is the slip. So the slip is basically just diluted clay. So I'm gonna actually add it on with a toothbrush. This is an old toothbrush. I was gonna throw it out and I thought, I'm sure I will make use out of it. So that's why I kept it. So here we go. We're gonna add that on here. You might think that's enough. No, 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 no. You're gonna have to add it on the other side. I can't tell you how many times my students say, so just on one side? No, on both sides. Please remember that. So now we're gonna join them together. So what we're gonna do to be able to join them, we're just gonna blend them and make them seamless. Again, I wouldn't recommend holding your piece like this if you are working on it. You can, if you want to, if you have a little bit of a sponge underneath you, because it's just gonna get distorted. But again, this is just for demo purposes. You don't need to do this. As I said, once you start, the more you make pinch pots, the better you get at it. And then you will learn how to actually do it without having to cut it in half. You will become, so you can also use your fingers like this. You will become an MRI scan. You don't need to cut it in half. You will see what's inside and what's going on. Okay, so you also need to do the blending from inside. You want to make it as seamless as possible. Okay, but please don't cut your piece in half, you know. Just keep practicing. I mean, you can cut your piece in half to just see how it looks like, but I wouldn't recommend joining. If you cut it in half, it's just for learning purposes to see how you're going with your technique and if you are doing it right or not. So maybe make two pieces, cut them in half and see if they are looking good enough. And then after that, your third piece, you don't have to cut it in half because you sort of have learned or have an idea on what it means being thin and not what it means of being thick. So for me, if I didn't cut this in half, I'll just close my eyes and go around and feel if there is any thick spot. So it's like, as I said, an MRI scan, or people are now gonna get annoyed of me saying MRI scan too many times. Let's, stop saying the same thing over and over. All right, cool. Cool. So now that is done. I am happy with that. Okay, for a student, please don't forget to also write your name down here. Otherwise, your piece will get mixed up with someone else's pieces and then you will not be happy. We need to recognize your piece when it comes out of the kiln. Okay, so this is a good demo to show you how blending is very important. And yeah, now So I am happy with that. You can work on your rim and make it really nice and smooth. But for a planter, do you really need your rim to be smooth? I don't think it's important because it's a planter. You're not going to drink out of it. So basically, no need to make it thin or smooth. I can show you how next time I make lesson for making a booby mug or for making just a normal slab hand building mug, how to make your rim nice and smooth. There's like a three things that you can do, but I like it for an organic piece to actually be, you know, a little bit edgy like this. And you know what, maybe I will fire this piece because if it does crack, it's a planter, it's meant to leak water, so that's fine. But again, it's better not to put it in the kiln and fire it. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I made that texture that I showed you earlier. So I will show you what I use. This is where the magic comes. I found this on the floor under the trees, and I thought, I should be able to use this. I should be able to make something out of this. And, you know, I wanted to test it. So this is how I made that texture. I will show you. But first, you should be using just oil, any oil, to spray it because the clay will stick on there. So I'll just grab, so this is just canola oil, cheap oil. You're just gonna spray it in here so the clay doesn't stick, as you can see. And then we're gonna grab a little bit of clay. And what you're gonna do, we'll put this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. So you're gonna embed that clay in here. And now it's a good time to do the scoring because you're gonna be attaching this piece to your piece. Let's cut it so it's actually even. And now let's do the scoring. So this is the scoring. There is, as I said, a scoring tool that makes your life a lot easier, but I'm just using the needle tool. You get what I mean. And this should peel off easily because you've used the oil. Beautiful. And that's basically that texture. Now, you can apply this texture on your piece just like this, but that's not what you can see here. So here, that's why it took me 3 weeks, because I did extra stuff. So what you could do, so that's one option. You apply it on here and then you start doing a little bit of carving in between. Or you can be a little bit more professional and start taking each individual one, which it does require lots of time, and then you start adding that there. So I'll show you this method. So again, we need to score in here. And this has already been scored, but I'll score it again. You're gonna add the slip there, and you're gonna add the slip here, and that goes in there. You're gonna do a little bit of blending as well, just so it doesn't detach. But don't completely wipe it out because you still wanna see how it looks like. Okay, the other method, you're gonna do the scoring all around here. And you're gonna add the slip. And you've got the slip there as well. And this will go in there. Now, what you need to do, just line it up evenly. So I think for now you should stop. You shouldn't do anything. You should wait until this gets to leather hard, like when you feel it feels like a cheddar cheese, and that should be the next day. And then you're gonna work on it later. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna come and carve in between those pieces. I can show you now what I mean, but it's better done when it's leather hard. You're gonna go on here and start carving in between because you don't need all of the extra clay. I hope the camera is showing everything. And you just keep working on it and finessing it until you're happy with it. So you get the drill. Yeah. So yeah, of course I can keep doing this, but I don't want to bore you. So you get what I mean by doing that. And you just keep finessing it until you're happy with it. If you want to know what color I added to my piece, I can tell you. Let me know in a question or something. I used terracotta clay for that one here, but this one is just stoneware clay. It's called Stoneware 10. And yeah, so that's basically what you get. So I will keep working on this one and I will add the final result. And then I will show you how to add the colored slip, which I used on this one. I used copper carbonate, I believe, and brown slip, and also bright green. And I did it as a wash. I kept dropping it and spraying it so it would make that beautiful drip. But that's basically how you do it. And I will keep working on this one off camera and I will show you the final result. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later.